The last memory Ada had of her father was the sound of his laughter echoing through the front yard, mingling with the rustling leaves of the mango tree and the sweet smell of roasted corn in the evening air. He was tall, strong, and always smiling. A commercial Okada rider, he worked long hours, sometimes even in the rain, but every night he'd come home, hoist Ada in the air like she weighed nothing, and whisper, "My little star, one day the world will see you shine." She was just 11, and in her eyes, he was a superhero. But superheroes don't die, do they? Until one Sunday night. It had rained heavily that day. The streets were slippery and visibility was poor. Ada remembered sitting on a stool near the window, waiting, watching, wondering why Papa hadn't returned. He always did before dark, even if just to say good night. That night, he didn't. A knock came at the door around 9 p.m. Two men stood outside. One was her father's friend from the junction, the other a stranger. They didn't need to say a word. Mama Reby, Ada's mother, took one look at their faces and collapsed onto the floor, screaming, "He's dead, oh! My husband is gone, oh!" Ada stood frozen in the doorway. She didn't cry, not then. She just stared at the scene, watching as her world crumbled without making a sound. Later that night, they told her the full story. Her father's bike had collided with a trailer on the express. The driver said he didn't see him through the rain. There was no argument, no scuffle, no last goodbye. Just impact, and blood, and silence. That was how Ada's life changed. The funeral was a blur. She wore a black dress 2 sizes too big, held Mama Reese's hand at the graveside, and listened as grown-ups whispered about her father being a good man, a quiet soul, hard-working to a fault. They said it like they were rehearsing a script. No one asked how she was feeling. No one told her what would happen next. And just like that, after the funeral crowd faded, after the condolence rice finished, and the sympathizers returned to their lives, Ada was left behind in a house that no longer felt like home. Mama Reese changed quickly. At first, she was always angry, shouting at neighbors, refusing to cook, staying in bed all day. Ada thought maybe it was just the grief. But then, the shouting turned to hitting. The long, soft hugs that used to rock Ada to sleep were replaced by harsh words and slaps that came without warning. The worst part? Mama Reese stopped calling her baby. Now she was just you. You this girl. You this stubborn thing. Her food portions became smaller. Her chores became heavier. No more school, no more friends. Just work. "Mama, when will I go back to school?" Ada asked one morning, clutching her tattered books. Her mother looked at her like she had said something offensive. "School? Do you want to eat sand in this house? Go and wash the plates outside before I break your head." That day, Ada understood something deeper than her age should have allowed. She was no longer a child. She was an inconvenience. A few months later, her mother opened a small bar in front of their compound. It was nothing more than a zinc shed, 3 plastic chairs, and 2 crates of beer to start with. But it grew fast. Men from the area came every evening to drink, shout at the TV, and pat each other on the back like boys who never grew up. They called it Mama Reese's spot. But behind the laughter and loud music was Ada, now 12, sweeping, washing bottles, and carrying cold drinks from the rusty freezer in the corner. Sometimes from morning till night. She'd work with her head down, afraid to speak. She wasn't even allowed to sit. The men noticed her, and the way they looked at her made her skin crawl. Some called her fine girl. Some winked. Some tried to pull her arm when she passed. One even asked her if she had started menstruating. She told Mama Risi, "Mama, that man touched me. He grabbed me when I gave him his change." But her mother didn't react with concern. She just gave her a long, cold stare and said, "You better learn how to handle men. If you like cry from now till tomorrow, now you still go back inside." Then a slap. No comfort, no protection, nothing. At night, Ada would lie on the thin mat in their tiny shared room and whisper to herself, "Maybe tomorrow will be better." She'd close her eyes and imagine her father was still alive, that he would barge into the room, carry her away on his Okada, and say, "Let's go, my little star." But every morning the fantasy would die with the sun, and reality, harsh, cruel, and cold, would come knocking again. At 12 going on 13, Ada had learned how to smile without feeling anything. She smiled when a customer called her "my wife." She smiled when they pulled her by the wrist and joked about her backside. She smiled even when they whispered filth in her ears while her hands trembled as she poured another drink. It wasn't a real smile. It was survival. Because in Mama Reese's beer parlor, silence was mistaken for pride, and pride was punished. She worked from sunrise to midnight most days, barefoot on the cement floor, soaked in the stench of beer, sweat, and stale cigarettes. The walls were stained with brown patches of dried drinks. The TV mounted above the counter flickered with old Nollywood films no one really watched. The men came in waves, mornings for palm wine and politics, evenings for beer and banter, and nights for drunken slurs and wandering hands. And Ada, she was always there, bending, cleaning, serving, enduring. One man, he was a regular, started calling her "my Ada baby." She hated it. He was older than her father would have been. His teeth were stained with tobacco, his breath like something died inside him. One evening, as she bent to pick a bottle cap, he brushed his hand across her back. She jumped. He laughed. "Don't be shy now. You go soon mature finish." Ada froze. Her hands tightened around the mop. Her heart raced, but she said nothing. She looked toward the counter, hoping, praying that Mama Reese saw what happened. She did, but she just turned back to the stove, as if Ada wasn't her daughter, as if she wasn't anyone's daughter. That night, as Ada washed her clothes by hand under the moonlight, she cried quietly, not loud enough to draw attention, just enough to keep from exploding. One night, it was raining hard. Thunder boomed like a war drum, and the wind howled through the torn tarpaulin that served as a bar roof. Only a few customers braved the storm. One was a man Ada had never seen before. He had a deep scar across his neck and wore a thick jacket despite the heat. As she approached to clear his empty bottle, he reached out suddenly and held her wrist. Hard. "Come sit with me," he said. "I'm not allowed to sit, sir," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Who say so?" "My mama," she stuttered, trying to pull away. He smiled, twisted and slow. "Na money they talk, not mama." He slipped a dirty 1,000 naira note into her hand. "Sit small. Make we talk." Ada felt sick. She looked at the note like it was poison. Then she looked toward her mother, who was frying akara behind the counter. Their eyes met, and once again, Mama Reese looked away. Ada dropped the note on the table and turned to leave. The man laughed loudly behind her. "She too day formo. You go still learn, small girl." That night, Ada didn't sleep. She lay on her side, facing the wall, tears soaking her wrapper. The rain outside had stopped, but the one inside her never did. She thought of running away. But where to? With what money? To whom? She had no relatives, none that she knew, no friends, not even neighbors who cared enough to ask if she was okay. She was invisible. Even the women who bought beer during the day, traders and teachers, often acted like she wasn't there. Some of them even praised her mother for training her well. She's obedient, they'd say. Your daughter dey try oh. Ada would smile politely. They had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. No one ever really did. Then came the day she gathered the courage to speak again. It was after a man had grabbed her backside when she walked past him with a tray of drinks. She dropped the tray in fear, shattering 2 bottles. The man didn't apologize. He just laughed and said, "No small thing now. I'd help you check if you done strong." The bar went silent for a moment before others joined in the laughter. When she cleaned up the mess and went inside, her hands were shaking. She stood before her mother breathless. "Mama, that man touched me. It wasn't small. He grabbed me." Mama Reese didn't even look up from the pot of stew she was stirring. "So? Mama, please, I don't feel safe," Ada whispered. "They touch me anyhow." Finally, the woman turned. Her eyes were cold, sharp. "If you no want them to touch you, then stop looking like food." Ada blinked. "What? You hear me well. You one day wear tight wrapper, come day grow breasts like person way get sense, and you day complain? If dem no touch you, who dem go touch? Ghost?" Then, as if that wasn't enough, she grabbed a wooden spoon from the pot and flung hot oil droplets in Ada's direction. "Come out from my front before I beat your destiny disappear." Ada ran outside, biting her tongue so hard it bled, just to stop herself from screaming. That was the last time she ever complained. From then on, she learned to disappear, not physically, but inside herself. She would force her eyes not to meet anyone's, keep her voice low, her clothes loose, but it didn't stop the men, or the comments, or the shame. And every time she looked at her mother, at the woman who was supposed to protect her, she only saw a wall, a cold, unmoving, unloving wall, one that would rather collect money than see her daughter safe. Still, Ada held on. Somehow, she kept waking up every day, whispering to herself, "Just survive today. Tomorrow might be better." But tomorrow had its own horrors waiting, and one of them would change everything. It was a Thursday evening, the kind of evening where the sun hangs low in the sky, casting a golden glow that almost makes poverty look poetic. The breeze was warm. Dust rose lazily from the ground as school children chased each other home. Radios buzzed from open windows. Life, despite its harshness, moved on. But for Ada, nothing felt poetic. She had just returned from fetching 5 jerry cans of water and was wiping sweat from her forehead when her mother's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Ada, wipe that counter before the next customer comes in. Lazy child." Ada hurried inside, her tired legs trembling slightly. The bar was nearly empty. Just 2 men at the back playing draft and an old woman sipping palm wine quietly. Then the door creaked open. He walked in, tall, clean-shaven, wearing a white senator outfit with embroidery so neat it looked like it came from Lagos, not this dusty street. He wore dark sunglasses, even though the sun had gone down. His skin was smooth, well-oiled, like a man who didn't sweat no matter how hot it got. But what stood out most? The thick, shiny gold chain that rested on his chest like royalty. Real gold, not the ones you see in ABBA markets. It glimmered each time he moved. Ada had never seen him before. and she didn't like how he looked at her. It wasn't like the other men, drunk, sloppy, whistling like fools. Number. His gaze was quiet, calculating, heavy, like he wasn't just looking at her body. He was studying her fear. He walked to the counter and greeted her mother. They spoke low, too low for Ada to hear, but she noticed how her mother's face changed. At first, surprised, then serious, then smiling. The kind of smile Ada had only seen when someone dropped a fat tip. The man reached into his pocket and brought out a bundle of cash, wrapped tight, thick. He placed it gently on the counter, like an offering, then whispered something else. Ada couldn't breathe. Her mother nodded slowly, then turned her head toward Ada like she was calling a goat. You, come here. Ada came. Her hands were still wet from washing. She wiped them on her wrapper. Yes, Mama? Her mother didn't look at her directly. This man here wants to talk to you. You'll go with him. Ada blinked. Go where? To his place. But, Mama, I don't know him. Why would I? A slap silenced her. The man didn't even flinch. He just leaned on the counter like it was normal, like everything was going according to plan. You'll follow him, her mother said, her voice flat. Don't talk too much. Don't disgrace me. You hear? Ada's stomach dropped. Her lips trembled. Mama, please, I don't want to go. Her mother's eyes narrowed. Do you want to eat in this house again? Ada froze. This wasn't a question. It was a threat. And in that moment, she knew her mother had sold her. Just like that, like a crate of beer, like used clothing in the market. She looked at the man again. He smiled now, softly, slowly, almost like he was enjoying the fear. Let's go, little girl, he said. Ada followed him. Each step from the bar to his car felt like walking toward a grave. It was a black Toyota Camry, tinted windows, leather seats that smelled like new shoes. He opened the passenger door for her. She paused. She looked back. Her mother was watching from the bar, arms folded, no sadness, no hesitation, just waiting. Ada stepped inside, and the door shut behind her with a finality that echoed louder than any sound. The drive was silent. The man didn't talk. Neither did she. She just watched the houses pass, the people, the shops, her world shrinking with every turn. They pulled into a hotel compound, small but clean. The kind of place businessmen use for brief stays and secret things. She wanted to run, but where to? No one would help her. He walked around and opened her door like a gentleman, held her by the arm like a lover. The receptionist barely looked up, just handed him a key, room 17. The hallway smelled like old perfume and air freshener, trying too hard to hide other things. The room itself was cold, too cold. The AC hummed like a warning. She stood at the door. He locked it behind her. Ada, he said softly. That's your name, right? She nodded. Sit down. She didn't move. He took off his sunglasses. His eyes were small, sharp, soulless. Your mother already gave me permission, he said, smiling. You don't need to be scared. Her hands clenched into fists. I'm not doing anything with you, she whispered. He laughed. Really? You think you have a choice? He stepped forward. She stepped back.